Hi, welcome to
Creating the Cool. Today on Creating the Cool, we're going to be learning how to communicate with your rhythm section to build a better solo. Communication with your rhythm section is very important, and it creates the kind of interaction and excitement that people expect from a really great jazz group. Whether you're playing bebop, blues, or swing, a great rhythm section can enhance your solo so much more than just simply excellent technique and great solo ideas. The solo you're listening to now has lots of great interaction between the band and the soloist, and it makes the solo a lot more interesting and has a lot more musical elements. In fully orchestrated pieces like orchestras, big bands, concert bands, the composer is able to take the time to create those kind of special interactions between the parts. But in an improvised setting, we have to provide this on the fly, so developing good communication skills is important. The first technique we're going to talk about today is call and response. Call and response is the interaction between the soloist and the rhythm section. In this case, the soloist is going to present an idea, and the rhythm section is going to answer that idea. Now, the answer can come from the entire rhythm section, or simply from the drummer, bass player, or a chord instrument. For this first example, we're going to have the drummer interacting directly with the soloist. Now here we notice a couple of things. One, the soloist leaves room for the drummer to interact. If the soloist was to play continuously, the drummer can't get a word in edgewise, and so it won't be much of a dialogue. As a soloist, it's important to leave space so the rhythm section has an opportunity to interject, but also it gives the audience time to listen to your ideas and digest them. For the rhythm section, unlike a regular soloist, you have to actually play opposite of the musical phrase. So if a soloist plays at the beginning of the phrase, then your interaction will be at the end of the phrase, and vice versa. So we need to get used to interacting with what we're given, not insisting on playing a solo lick in this spot in the measure. In this example, we're going to have interaction between the soloist and the bass player. Now you'll notice in this situation, the drummer relaxes a little bit and plays a little more simply. This is so the audience can hear the interaction between the two instruments. As a rhythm section, it's really important to not always compete to see who can play the most. Sometimes it's great to have the drummer interact, but sometimes it's nice to have a different texture. So maybe the bass or the guitar or the piano can do the interacting with the soloist and have a much simpler pad from the rest of the instruments. In either case, whether it's the drummer or the bass player, great interaction tends to spur on a soloist and make them want to play more. Some of the most common gestures we have in jazz are things like holding up 4, which often means to the drummer or another player that we're going to trade 4-measure phrases back and forth. Another great gesture is the chop, or meaning I'd like some stop time or a simpler time feel. For horn players, that's generally some sort of motion like that. For vocalists, you can do it with one hand, or if you're a trumpet player or other instruments that can free up a hand while playing, that's a great way of signaling to the band, I want a stop time phrase. Boom. Other simple body gestures, like eye contact, help a soloist know that it's their turn. One of the biggest things that can ruin the end of a solo section is when a player won't make eye contact with other musicians, letting them know that they're done soloing and they'd like to hand off responsibility. This might seem like something that's a small thing, but reality is, at the end of the solo, the next soloist would like to build an exciting phrase on top of what they've already heard, and they may not be prepared for that if you don't make eye contact with them. Other simple body gestures include sinking down a little bit, or using your hand to indicate softer, rising up to indicate louder and more energy, and then just simple body gestures to help everybody understand that we want more excitement and something that's going to build in intensity. In our final example here, we're going to be talking about communication between the soloist and the rhythm section. In this solo, you'll see that the band builds up energy by interacting, and you'll see that there's some obvious hand motions that are going on. You might think that this would be distracting, but in reality, the audience is sort of excited to see you interacting, and it's kind of this interesting look behind the scenes. How are they creating this solo? How are they working together? And in a lot of ways, it actually will enhance the performance to have great eye contact and some simple and very well thought out gestures. Just like a great piece of music, more dynamics, more articulation, and more interaction will always make your solos more impressive to the audience. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creating the Cool. Reach out to me on my website at www.larsenjazz.com and check out all of my commercial releases. This year I put out 2 releases on the German record label G2 Records, and you'll find them on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and everywhere else. They're entitled G2 and You and Bright Days. I've also released this as a 2 EP set on a CD, so if you go to my Bandcamp site, you can purchase the physical disc if you want, or you can hear it on your local jazz radio stations. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed Creating the Cool. Yeah, I think it'll work.
Sweet. I missed your the one.
Yeah, well, but it was solo-y enough that I think they'll get the picture.
Yeah.
At least I didn't go like crazy on my solo.
Yeah. So I'm curious about one.